Hello everybody, welcome back to another video for the day. Now we're diving right back into r/talesofneckbeard because everybody likes a good old story time. You know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, let's go. Our first story comes to us from username CrazyPVP. Creepy Neckbeard Jr. sends an email talking about my privates. I'm like a neckbeard magnet. Unlike the last story, this dude is not a ped, not are they online. Instead, they go to my school. I'm an extroverted person. I like to take selfies with my friends and so forth. I was in this classroom my school has called the game room. Us weirdos would play games like SSB, Super Smash Brothers, and Sonic games, etc. One day, my sorta friend, sorta acquaintance, who we will call Jake, gets a flip phone and shows it off. Jake was a kid who was into anime, video games, always said stuff like my lady or gentle sir, stuff like that. Typical neckbeard except no beard. Now, usually with my friends, I use their phone to take selfies as jokes and stuff. I took a selfie and he accidentally touched a private area of mine. I didn't make a big deal of it, but it felt weird and awkward, especially how he reacted to it. I go home that day and I am playing on my laptop. I look through my school's emails and see that I got an email from Jake. If you're wondering how he got it, it's simple. My school district gives us ID numbers, which gives us an email address. We get those addresses in the 7th grade and we keep it even after we graduate. If you want to find a student, all you have to do is research on the Gmail section the recipient's first and last name and it will pop up. My name isn't very English and it's more Arabic, so I wasn't hard to find. Jake emails me and I click on it. What he texted me made my 14-year-old brain scarred for life. So I bumped into your privates today, they were soft. I'd like to talk about it. I immediately emailed that I wasn't uncomfortable and to never say that to me again before promptly deleting the conversation. This is because my parents checked my computer around this time and I didn't want them to be scarred. So I deleted the emails and the next day he came to apologize. I avoided him like the plague up until junior year, which is this year. I'm still awkward around him and wary, so I keep my distance. Nowadays, we just pass by on campus and he says hi and I give one back. This guy was my first experience with a neckbeard and made me feel so scared for a long time. Luckily, this year is his last year, so my senior year will be completely Jake-free. I hope you all enjoyed this little story, and unfortunately there are more encounters that I will be posting about. I hope all of you stay safe and sound wherever you are right now and always. I am honestly so glad that you don't have to deal with that anymore, and I am actually pretty glad that he wasn't persistent like your average neckbeard. I don't know what you did, but whatever you did was able to defuse this situation really quick. Our next story comes to us from username Horo Perona. Fujoshi Legbeard yells at me for not liking yaoi. For those of you who don't know, Fujoshi is technically just a person who likes to read male fiction. However, Fujoshi have made a bad name for themselves, fantasizing male relationships and being internally phobic. They often view happy men as objects and call them things like my sinful uwu dirty babies. Also, many of the yaoi manga that they read portray unhealthy, abusive relationships between the main characters. It's also not uncommon for them to fantasize underage boys as well, reading stories of them being violated, molested, and often roped by other men. It's generally not good portrayal of men in the LGBT community, and most happy men will agree. Some do enjoy yaoi, but those who believe there is no bad, toxic things in the yaoi world are delusional. They also tend to be misogynistic, hating, and brutally despising female characters in TV shows, manga, and anime just because they are girls. Let's get a rundown of our cast first. Roxas, myself, I'm a 19 female, a college freshman who is studying Japanese, enjoying a bit of anime, is considered the baby friend of the group and would like to do fashion in Tokyo. E, our legbeard, 22 years old, non-binary, our college senior, a Fujoshi, and fantasizes teenage boys, studies Japanese, and wants to move to Japan. A, 22 male, college senior, dad friend, has known E since senior year, a good guy, also studies Japanese, and would like to work in the biomedical field. B, 22F, also college senior, also studies Japanese, and would like to be an English language teacher, absolute sweetheart. N, 19M, a close friend from the semester before, also a college freshman, art student, loves memes and anime, and constantly exhausted. So our story begins between two of my classes. I see my 3 upperclassmen along with N sitting at a table together in our student union. I sit down and begin our conversation as usual, talking about life and what was going to happen during that week's Japanese club. Somewhere along the line, the conversation began on what characters in the popular anime My Hero Academia we liked. I told E that I love Nejire, who is an underrated female character in the series, and that I relate to her personality a lot. E then goes on to bash on the character, claiming that she was annoying and didn't matter at all to the story, and how she was significantly less important and strong to her two male counterpart characters. I brought up the fact that I didn't really like people who would discredit Nejire and rant about how the two males Mirio and Tamaki are meant to be boyfriends. Even though the show is about heroes and fighting crime, I said I don't like that Fujoshi have made the show about shipping the male characters together, and E went off on me. E started yelling at me in the union in front of our friends. I'll try to quote what they said, but at some point I tuned them out and put my headphones on to listen to music. I hate anti-Fujoshi. They are the most phobic people I have ever met. They are so ignorant and rude and never respect anyone. People who hate Fujoshi are basically Fujoshi themselves because they are probably read BL boys love fiction themselves. Also, Roxas, you should know that the plural of Fujoshi is Fujoshi, not Fujoshis. Are you studying Japanese? Do you call multiple sushi sushis? Do you pay attention in class at all? By that point, I put my headphones on. I don't like confrontation, and when people begin to raise their voices at me, I tend to armadillo. I looked at my phone and saw I had texts from all three of the other friends at the table. They were asking me if I was okay and sending me wholesome memes because I looked distraught. A ended up leaving at the beginning of E's rant because he didn't want to listen to E's enraging babbling. After about a 10-minute rant about why I, a bi woman, am a phobe and I supposedly hate men who are happy, E left the room. A came back and N and B looked at me asking if I was alright. A told me that E acts like this a lot, that they do not care about your opinion if you disagree, and that if you have a different opinion, that you are wrong and will always be wrong. It doesn't matter if you fight back, because if you do, then E will yell at you more and begin insulting you and make you feel horrible about yourself. It's a lose-lose situation. Later, I learned that E enjoys reading yaoi off-brand of young boys, of shota type boys, and then tries to claim it's okay because they are fictional. That makes me even more uncomfortable is that when E studied in Japan, the job that they signed up for was to help teach English at a Japanese elementary school. They might have signed up with no ill intentions, but it's definitely suspicious if they read fiction of young males getting violated on the regular. That's the story so far. I'll make more posts as the semester goes on if anything happens. You know, I'd have to say that is my very first Legbeard story, and Jesus. You know, I got curious, so I decided to look up to see if there was any type of Legbeard equivalent of neckbeard for the subreddits, and there's actually one for both. Maybe I'll do something in the future regarding it. Our last story comes to us from username Vampenstein, because I decided to look up my name. 4-year age gaps aren't okay. Take it from us. So this happened years ago when I was a young, fragile, LGBTQ+ kid super duper far in the closet. I made this account after watching several of my videos and Repsion videos so that I could share the gross story of what happened to me. By the way, I adore Repsion for helping me to overcome my trauma. Thanks, man. I've been having horrible nightmares about this man, and I think it's time I'm open and honest about what happened. TLDR at the bottom. The main characters are here. VS is me, a 14-year-old, secretly pan and non-binary, suffering from undiagnosed depression and schizophrenia. Neckbeard bait because I loved anime, video games, and was an emo kid. Short with blonde hair and big doe brown eyes. I was covered in self-harm scars and was incredibly insecure from years of bullying and familial abuse/neglect. Eddie, one of my weird hallucinations, like an imaginary friend that you don't want and won't go away. She played a huge role in everything. I refer to her as head roommate, since her voice is always there and she's only there because she got nowhere else to go apparently. Big brother, BB, 17 years old, close friend, and huge softie. The guy wasn't my biological brother, but I wasn't gonna let that stop me from calling him family. Lollybeard, LB, also 17, not your typical neckbeard. While he loved anime and video games like it was his religion, he was tall, beardless, and skinny, a beanpole, balding at his age, and had this weird habit of trying to scowl all the time for some reason. I was homeschooled for most of my life, until high school to be exact. As well as this, I was raised by a super religious family and often subjected to the judgment from that. Since I've always been kinda off with my weird quirks, pacing, muttering, picking at my skin, paranoia, etc., so kids around me would often make fun of of my sheltered ways. So naturally, when my older sister joined a Boy Scouting group called Venturing, I was forced to join too since I was always at home. Venturing is just Boy Scouts, but girls can join too. My mom wanted me to make friends and actually build some social skills. And it worked. I made friends with BB and a couple other dorky people, and it was amazing. LB and BB's best friend who joined the group soon after he did. At first, I considered BB and LB to be my big brothers, people who cared about me and supported me for the first time ever. At first, I felt like I was being accepted by a group of people just as geeky as me. That was until I noticed how LB was looking at me. He'd insist on sitting by my side and complimenting me excessively. I remember when I told him that my older sister and I had cosplayed Liz and Patty from Soul Eater, he was absolutely thrilled. Since I was shorter, I played Patty, and NB ate it up like a starving man at a buffet. The pictures of me in black boots, shorts, and a crop top made him so happy. I was disturbed by his weird fascination with my anime cosplay, but stupidly, I was grateful that someone was telling me I looked nice. I was finally getting attention I had never gotten before. Growing up, I was always told that my job was to be a woman and to get married. So when I, an insecure person in denial about my gender identity, was given love by an older male, I was ecstatic. But it didn't register to me that this nearly 18-year-old guy shouldn't be complimenting a 14-year-old's butt. But I was happy to be loved, and that's all that mattered to me. The Venturing crew got together for the 4th of July, and as usual, I was delighted to be leaving the house for once in my life. LB followed me around and insisted on complimenting me. He tried to point out every little detail of my being. "You look so pretty near these fireworks. You're a real-life anime character. You know, you reminded me of a lolly." He had a fascination with the fact that I had a very soft, young, underdeveloped body, flat-chested, and a little curvy from being forced to play volleyball. I made the mistake of giving him my phone number so we could chat more. Worst mistake I've ever made. Thinking he was a trustworthy person, I told him about my most common hallucinations. Eddie, a tall, twisted woman with white eyes who tried to give me an often horrible advice on things. And he accepted her. I was thrilled to have someone not call me crazy for once, thrilled that someone didn't think I was a monster because I see crop that's not there, and I was grateful for him loving me despite my 7-foot 8-inch flaw that followed me around with horrible advice on a day-to-day activities. From then on, LB insisted on texting me every day and would get upset if I didn't reply fast enough. I didn't have a large friend group, so I was delighted to be receiving attention, and from a guy no less. He started to say "I love you" before I went to bed and when I woke up, but since I only viewed him as a brother, I never said it back since he meant it in a romantic way. He would often try to speak to Ed, and Ed would talk back and humor him, but to be truthful, Ed hated him deeply. Even if she lied and said he was nice, she still hated him. For some more context, I have schizophrenic meltdowns. I shake and pick at my skin and teeth because of the feelings of bugs under my skin and in my gums. I get paranoid that everyone hates me and they want me gone. Food, drink, and sunlight become my enemy, and I lose my shot when someone tells me otherwise. Well, after one particular meltdown, I was laying in bed crying when he messaged me this: "Hey, I know it's rough right now, but I want you to know I love you." And like the dumb butt I am, I replied, "I love you too." And so started our twisted 2-year-long relationship. I joined a private Christian school and was often busy during the day, but he'd still message me all the time. And when he messaged me, he often roleplayed and tried to seem like the suave man who was here to rescue me from my depression. After a while, I was worn down and roleplayed back. I know, I'm the 14-year-old Einstein, so smart, such intelligence. When I stood up for myself, he'd tear me down and saying things like this: "You're a pathetic cow and nobody will love you. I'm the only one who'd ever want you. Be grateful, wholesome." And I'd cry and take him back like the little dumb butt I was. Eventually, he started a game of "let's fake break up so I can come back and rescue you." Every few weeks or months, he'd pretend to leave me and tell me I'm some horrible barch for breathing air, I guess? LB treated me like a charity case that he was loving because it's what would make him look good. Let's not forget that he was still obsessed over me cosplaying and wanted me to cosplay a very specific niche of characters: brown-eyed, blonde, obsessed lollies. For those of you who don't know what lolly means, it's basically the type of character that neckbeards say when they say, "Don't worry, she's 500 years old." I know, what a gentleman. When he turned 18, he told me that I wasn't allowed to tell anyone about our relationship because he could go to jail. Not once did he ever consider genuinely leaving me because he wanted me to be his perfect little kitten slave. Very gross. Well, after 2 years of this bullcrop, I finally ended it, and by that I mean Ed told me to. Blocked his number and left the venture crew. I only had to go on one last trip with Lollybeard, and if people want to hear that cringe, I'm willing to supply. Since this all happened, I've been in 2 other other abusive, cringy relationships, and one really supportive one. I came out as non-binary and pan to my family and friends, and even started a creepypasta blog where I roast how cringy the fandom is. My family found a therapist for me, and I am far more stable than I was when I was pretending to love this bucket of cringe. My most recent ex and current best friend has been helping me overcome my fear of men and has helped me learn to love myself and my disorder despite what happened to me. I am now pursuing my degree in criminal justice and am a loving parent to a rescue Russian blue kitten. No, there's a pretty kitty. Ed's still here and she's still weird. I told BB about what happened and why I left, and he understood. When I left the crew, I let them know why and that I didn't want to press charges on LB because I just want him out of my life so I can move on. And I have for the most part. I'm a bass playing now goth with new friends and a firm base of self-love and acceptance. In conclusion, if you're in a place similar to this, I know it's rough, but once you're out of it, I promise that it gets better. It's all gets better. TLDR, lolly-obsessed neckbeard grooms me, a young schizophrenic, to be his perfect little waifu. I escape and find self-love with my head roommate. You know, I'm actually really glad things worked out for you in the end, and the best thing we can do to improve our quality of life, and this goes for everybody, is just learn to love ourselves. And with that, that is going to have to be it with the video. If you had liked what you had seen, be sure to slam that like button and leave a comment down below to see what you liked and start up a good old conversation, get that stuff going, and consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.